Hey, good evening, friends. So, yet another day of destroying our history, right? Um, the East Wing is going, and it will soon be entirely gone, in spite of the fact that Trump said that it would be adjacent to it, wouldn't touch it, wouldn't da 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 da. And of course, shocking, he lied. I did a take on this yesterday, and of course, I'll say this again. The most important thing about this is release the Epstein files, because this is, obviously this is not just a distraction from the Epstein files. I mean, we know that. This is just a megalomaniac doing megalomaniac things, right? What people may not remember necessarily, although, perhaps you've heard this, is that this is not the first time that Donald Trump has had absolutely no respect for history or art or the value of a historical building. He had bought years and years ago the Bonwit Teller building in New York, which is where Trump's Tower now stands. And personally, I think Trump Tower should go down and be sown with salt. But that's neither here nor there. The Bonwit Teller building was very representative of Art Deco architecture that had a lot of Art Deco features. The friezes on there were irreplaceable, and Trump said, well, I'll try to take them down in one piece and I'll donate them to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And then he found out that it would cost $32,000 to preserve them. I want you to think about that. $32,000. That's all it would have taken from a guy who was already a multimillionaire and had access to all of Daddy's money and all of that. And he just didn't want to spend a measly fucking $32,000 to preserve them. So the people who worked across the street from the Bonwit Teller building one day heard it happening. And what happened was that there were jackhammers that were taken directly to them. They were being cut in half and thrown down to the ground, where they shattered into millions of tiny little pieces. So this is just a continuation of a vulgar man having his way again. And I honestly, I blame, obviously, his father, because his father got him out of everything in his life that ever even vaguely represented responsibility and taking responsibility for his own actions. But more recently, I blame all of this, what's happening, physically to the White House, to the People's House. I blame this on fucking Merrick Garland for dragging his heels for 2.5 years, I think, 2.5 years on charging Trump with the things that he actually did. I blame Merrick Garland for the East Wing of the White House being completely and utterly destroyed. I blame him for the current state of our Supreme Court. And I blame him for all of this because he was spineless, he was partisan, he was unwise. He did not care about the law. And his dithering has cost us, the American people, our standing in the world, the respect of other countries and other world leaders. Our other world leaders are laughing at us because our president is a joke. I blame Merrick Garland for the downfall of our country because he should have prosecuted right away. He had all the evidence there and he just delayed and delayed and delayed and delayed. He didn't move forward. He didn't do what he was supposed to do. He literally did not do his job. Additionally, I blame the men in the room for writing strongly worded letters instead of finding actual solutions to what's happening. The women of this world are standing up right now. I don't say that just because I happen to be female. It's just very obvious that people like AOC and Jasmine Crockett are standing up and being loud about what's happening. And in this time where women are silenced, where a female politicians and their husbands were shot at. One of them was, actually two of them were unalived. In a situation where women speaking up is literally a danger to their lives. Women are standing up and they're speaking out against this. And I hope that they're able to find a way to bring this man to real, actual justice, because that's what we need right now. The protests that happened over the weekend were heartening. And as Rachel Maddow said, I do wonder if he waited to start destroying the East Wing until after the protests, because it would have caused more people to show up, finally. It's funny, though, there are always those who still are not seeing what the rest of the world is seeing, are not seeing what we in this country who do not watch faux news or OAN or whatever, that we are not watching conservative media, which is not showing what's actually happening, quite literally, or they're spinning what's happening to satisfy whatever it is that their state-run media is hiding. And it always boils down to money, right? I mean, Trump himself said, "Oh, I love the sound of those jackhammers and all that, because that just reminds me of money." And it's like, money that you can't allow us to keep for our medical insurance, that you can't allow people to keep to feed their kids, to feed themselves. All the money that was in the programs that we already had, which is going to be hitting pretty hard the people who voted for him. And there are still people who are out there saying, I don't see why anybody thinks he's a bad person. I don't understand. Because that's how deep in the cult they've gone. What I genuinely want to know is what can be done now to stop further desecration of the White House. Because it's not going to just stop at the East Wing. He's not going to just stop there. It's part of a larger thing. And obviously, anybody who can put two and two together knows that this is a man who does not plan on leaving the White House. He's had his second term of his presidency. It is not allowed for him to run for another term, and yet he keeps saying, I'm going to run for another term. He has quietly been making moves to take over the voting machines, literally. I mean, it's not been reported on a whole lot. And I don't even know all the details, to be honest. I'd have to go back and look at that. But the fact that the Republicans refuse to renew the Voting Act really tells you exactly what's happening here. And people are still, oh, no, that's not true, and blah, 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 blah. And it is true. And we are in an authoritarian nation now. The question that I have is, what are we going to do about it? I don't have the answers. I'm not smart enough for that, quite frankly. And a give 'em hell attitude is a large part of it. Protesting, I think, does do some good. I think that legal channels are good to a point, but then all they have to do is wait to kick it up to the Supreme Court, and they're just going to rubber stamp whatever it is in his favor, because they have no pride, they have no concern. I still think that it's hilarious that Thomas thinks that he's part of this club when he can never be part of the club because of the color of his skin. And yet he is helping these people who hate him because of the color of his skin to to do so much damage to our country. But I do have hope that people who are out there who are more educated in this than I am, who are smarter than I am about strategy and what will actually work to stop this. This has gone too far. And it went too far month 1 of his presidency. It went too far then. This is something that the forefathers of our country tried to prevent. And all of us as a nation need to stand up again and again and again until this guy, who is a useful idiot for Stephen Miller and Kristi Noem and all of these other people, those are the people who are going around and actually doing the damage. Russell Vought, who wrote Project 2025. And if you guys can't find Project 2025, you should be looking a lot harder. Hopefully there's somebody who will have put the entire thing up when you could just download it off the internet. Maybe I'll get motivated to do that. And you can see that all of this is exactly as it was written out. But I really think that people are more and more going to turn away from this. Now that the pictures of the East Wing are out, I think maybe people are realizing how horrible this really is and how little respect that he has for our nation's capital, which we could have figured out from January 6th, but also how little respect he has for us, the American people, because he doesn't think it's the people's house. He thinks it's his. And we need to re-educate this man on that. Anyway, I've rambled long enough. I hope you have a good evening. And I hope some of you out there are smart enough to figure this out, because I am not. Take care.